Everywhere you look, there's a new shiny car ad. Zero emissions, hybrid magic, 5-star comfort. But what if I told you some of these so-called smart choices are secretly nightmares? For your wallet, for your sanity, and sometimes for your safety. Today, I'm exposing 7 new cars that people buy by the thousands, but that seasoned mechanics roll their eyes at. These aren't old rust buckets. They're modern models pushed hard by marketing, sitting pretty in your local dealer lot right now. And the worst part? Many look eco-friendly, tech-packed, and safe on paper. But under the glossy paint, you'll find fragile parts, half-baked tech, and cost-cutting shortcuts that always come back to bite. So if you're planning to buy a city runabout, a stylish hybrid, or a cheap electric car this year, stop. Watch this first, because the #1 car on this list might be the very one you were about to sign for. Let's flip the usual countdown. We'll start from the least terrible and climb to the worst offender. Ready? Buckle up. Here's the first not so bad but still bad enough contender. 7. Toyota Yaris Cross Hybrid. Say Toyota and you think bulletproof reliability, right? And for decades, you'd be right. But the Yaris Cross Hybrid? It's not quite that unbreakable Toyota you imagine. On paper, a cute compact SUV, fuel-sipping hybrid power, legendary badge on the hood. In real life? Owners quickly spot 3 headaches. First, the transmission. Toyota's eCVT is smooth on paper but on highways? Floor the gas and it screams like a hairdryer on max power. Drivers joke, past 70 miles per hour it sounds like a blender stuck on puree. Second, the fuel economy. Brochures promise dreamy mileage, 55 miles per gallon or more. Real owners? Many struggle to hit 40. Highway trips? It drops into the low 30s. Third, the infotainment system. A dated, sluggish touchscreen that feels more 2012 than 2025. Buggy Bluetooth, laggy Android Auto, old-school nav, all wrapped in a cabin that deserves better tech. So what do you really get? A city hybrid that hums nicely in traffic, but drones on the highway, drinks more than you expect, and leaves you fiddling with glitchy menus. Verdict: if you want a bulletproof Toyota, buy a used Prius. If you want this Yaris Cross, test drive it twice on real roads, not just the showroom parking lot. 6. Mazda CX-30. Look at the Mazda CX-30 and you'd swear it costs 10 grand more than it does. That sculpted body, the upscale cabin, leather touches everywhere. You sit inside and think, finally a classy compact SUV that feels premium without a premium badge. Then you hit the road, and that dream starts to fade. Mazda made a bold move with the CX-30's Skyactiv-G engine. No turbo, no heavy hybrid bits, just a naturally aspirated 2.0-liter petrol engine that's supposed to be old-school reliable. Problem is, this honest engine is also painfully underpowered. You've got a car pushing nearly 3,100 pounds with just 115 horses doing the work. Merging onto the highway? Floor it. Wait. Still waiting. It's like asking a marathon runner to drag a trailer. And while the manual gearbox is fun, most buyers pick the automatic. That's when things get worse. The auto can feel hesitant, pairing badly with an engine that already lacks punch. Fuel economy? Marketing says over 40 miles per gallon, UK. Real owners whisper more like 30 to 35 in mixed driving, dropping below 30 if you push it at all. Then there's the tech. The infotainment screen is small and clunky for a car wearing 2025 clothes. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto sometimes stutter. No fancy over-the-air updates like bigger brands. So here's the paradox. You bought a premium-looking crossover expecting sporty Mazda vibes. Instead, you got a beautiful slowpoke that drinks like a turbo, but pulls like a hatchback from 2005. If style is all you care about, fine. But if you want power, economy, and modern tech in one package, the CX-30 will test your patience and your fuel budget. The Shinshi Renault Arkana. First glance, the Renault Arkana is a head-turner. Swept-back roofline, sharp LEDs, sporty SUV coupe vibes, all at a price that makes you think, this is the budget BMW X4 I've been waiting for. And under the skin, a fancy e-tech hybrid system that promises to juggle petrol and electric power for max efficiency. Perfect family commuter, right? Well, the promise is bigger than the delivery. Problem 1. The hybrid powertrain's brain can't make up its mind. Low-speed city driving? Smooth enough. But hit the throttle to pass someone, and the Arkana jerks, hesitates, then surges forward like it just woke up. Owners describe the transition from electric to petrol like riding an old elevator. Slow, clunky, and slightly worrying. Problem 2. The main petrol engine is a tiny 1.6 with barely 94 horsepower. Sure, the battery and twin electric motors help, for a bit. But once that tiny battery drains, which happens quickly if you drive with any enthusiasm, you're left with an underpowered gas engine dragging a heavy SUV body. Problem 3. Real-world miles per gallon rarely matches the brochure. In town, sure, it sips fuel at low speeds. But on highways, many drivers see numbers closer to a plain old petrol crossover. No hybrid magic here. And there's more. Regenerative braking is rough and inconsistent. The gearbox whines and lurches under sudden stops. Rear visibility is sacrificed for style. The sloped roof cuts boot space. Added up, and the Arkana feels like a confused experiment. Not quite sporty, not truly efficient, and not the smooth hybrid you might expect. If you're tempted by that sexy silhouette, test it thoroughly. Because behind the coupe SUV swagger is a crossover that's stuck halfway between eco and old school. Čtvrtý Fiat 500e. It's adorable. Retro vibes, tiny footprint, all electric. The Fiat 500e looks like the perfect city EV. You see it in chic ads, influencers posing with it outside cafes, pure Italian charm on 4 silent wheels. But live with it for a few months and reality sets in. First disappointment, the real-world range. On paper, Fiat claims up to 190 miles, 300 kilometers. In real city driving, cold weather, a bit of AC or a hilly route, and you're lucky to get 120 to 140 miles. Once you drop below 20% battery, power drops, recharging takes longer, and your confidence plummets. Second letdown, charging speed. The base 500e charges painfully slow at home. Even on DC fast chargers, it peaks around 85 kilowatts, but only briefly. Translation? Expect long coffee stops if you're on a road trip. Third issue, the tech. Owners report a glitchy infotainment system. Android Auto drops randomly. Apple CarPlay stutters. The touchscreen freezes mid-navigation. Some drivers even say that after leaving it parked for weeks, the 500e refuses to start until the dealer resets it. Not exactly the stress-free EV experience people expect. And let's talk practicality. Back seats, tiny. Boot, barely enough for groceries. Brakes and suspension, not the sharpest, especially with the extra battery weight. Then there's the price. Fully loaded, the 500e can cost over £25,000, more than bigger, more capable EVs with real range and faster charging. One owner summed it up perfectly. Gorgeous for selfies. Not so fun when you're stuck at a charger for an hour to get just enough juice to crawl home. So yes, the Fiat 500e is cute. It's cool, it's a statement. But as an everyday car, be ready for compromises and range anxiety the marketing never shows you. Third, Volkswagen Golf. For years, the Golf was the benchmark for solid, no-nonsense German engineering. You bought one, you drove it for decades, and you barely saw your mechanic. Then came the Mokka 8. More screens, more software, a fancy mild hybrid badge. But somewhere along the way, VW lost the plot. Let's start with the engine. The 1.0 ETSI mild hybrid. It's a tiny 3-cylinder turbo boosted by a 48-volt system. On paper, efficient and peppy. In real life, hesitant throttle, weird power dips, and a turbo that's working overtime to haul a heavy hatch. Next problem, the DSG gearbox. This used to be the gold standard for dual-clutch smoothness. Now, some drivers say it feels confused. Quick to upshift, clunky on downshifts, and sometimes sluggish when you need power now. But the real nightmare is the tech. VW bragged about going all in on touch controls. The result? Buttons replaced with laggy sliders and a central screen that freezes more than your old Windows 98 PC. Want to adjust the climate while driving? Good luck poking tiny icons on a jittery touchscreen at 70 miles per hour. Owners share horror stories. Infotainment rebooting mid-journey. Random error lights that disappear as mysteriously as they arrive. Voice control activating when no one said a word. Even the fancy driver aids, travel assist, lane keeping, sometimes steer more like a drunk uncle than a precision German robot. One Golf loyalist told me, "I miss my Mark V. I swapped it for this and now I just pray the screen doesn't crash on the motorway." Bottom line, the Golf used to be the easy choice. Today's version? It's become a rolling software experiment, with an underpowered engine doing damage control. If you want German dependability, maybe it's time to look at a boring old Skoda. Second, Opel Mokka. When the new Opel Mokka dropped, people were excited. Fresh look, bold paint jobs, slick digital cockpit. Finally, Opel seemed cool again. But pop the hood and you'll see what mechanics dread. The infamous 1.2 PureTech engine, a shared Stellantis design that's earned a reputation for a very messy party trick. See, unlike traditional timing chains, this engine has a timing belt that sits in an oil bath. Sounds clever, right? Less friction, more efficiency. Reality? That oil slowly eats the belt alive. Over time, bits of rubber break off, clog oil channels, starve the engine, until one day it just seizes. Owners who skip frequent checks. They're stuck paying for major repairs before 60,000 miles, when a timing belt should last almost twice that. It gets worse. Many Mokkas burn oil faster than expected. Not drops, liters. Some drivers top up every 1,000 miles and never see a warning light. Then throw in spotty electronics, parking sensors that beep for ghosts, random ABS errors, infotainment that freezes on startup. One frustrated owner summed it up. Beautiful car outside, but inside it's like watching a toddler try to keep its toys together. And when things go wrong, good luck fighting for warranty cover. Many drivers hear, "Wrong oil used, your fault," or "Your service interval was too long." Add cheap cabin plastics and thin soundproofing, and you have a car that looks premium on Instagram, but feels rattly and rough on a rainy motorway. So yes, the Mokka turns heads. But if you want a crossover that won't constantly beg for oil and random diagnostics, maybe keep walking past that dealership. First, Dacia Spring Electric. On paper, the Dacia Spring looks like the perfect answer to affordable electric driving. Tiny, quirky, cheap to buy. It's the cheapest EV in many European markets. You see influencers posing with it in city squares, ads bragging about mobility for everyone. But behind the cute face, a laundry list of deal breakers. First red flag, safety. In Euro NCAP crash test, the Spring scored 1 star. Yes, in 2024, a car you're supposed to trust for school runs basically crumples like a soda can in a bad collision. Weak structure, drum brakes in the rear, minimal driver aids. One tester described it bluntly. Better than a bicycle, but not by much. Second issue, real-world range. The brochure says 140 miles, 230 kilometers. In winter, 90 to 100 miles if you're lucky. Add heating, city traffic, or a few hills, and you're hunting for a charger every couple of days. And don't expect Tesla-level fast charging. Max DC charge speed, 30 kilowatts, about half of what even budget rivals offer. So even at a fast charger, you'll be sipping coffee for a good while. Third headache, quality and usability. Inside, it's plastic galore, old-school switchgear, and a sluggish infotainment that feels like a cheap tablet glued to the dash. The steering feels vague. Suspension, noisy and crashy over bumps. Oh, and one more hidden trap. Leave the Spring parked unplugged for too long and some owners say it flat out refuses to wake up, needing a dealer reset to get moving again. Sure, the Spring is cheap up front, but factor in questionable safety, short range, glacial charging, and zero resale value. And you realize cheap is a gamble, not a bargain. One mechanic put it best. It's not an electric car. It's a plastic scooter with doors. There you have it. 7 shiny modern cars that hide messy secrets under the hood. Some drain your wallet, some drain your patience. A few even risk your safety. Are they all terrible? Number But if you don't know what you're buying, you might learn the hard way. From the back of a tow truck. If you've owned one of these or barely dodged buying one, drop your story in the comments. It could save someone a huge mistake. Smash that like button if you found this helpful, and hit subscribe for real-world car truths every single week. Next up, the flip side, the used cars mechanics love and would buy for themselves in 2025. Don't miss it. Drive smart, spend smart. See you next time.